This video is to show how to turn the Chevrolet logo, the older ones, the gold ones, amber, whatever color you like to call it, from this to this. Now, as a reference, this is the front part, and I already disassembled it. This would be originally the amber. What you want to look for once you remove this whole piece from your front grille is you're going to see little circles. These areas you want to drill out gently. That's the very important word here, gently. You don't want to pierce through it. And what I used is this type of bit here, because you don't want a point, because if you have a point, there's a chance you can punch through. So using this, you drill out where you will see on the back side the little holes. And after that, you want to get the piece to separate. I'll tell you now, it's held together by silicone. So do not pry, which is a mistake I made on this piece here, so it marred the edges, but I smoothened them out and they don't show so much unless you really crawl into it. On the back one here, as the example I started it, I pulled off the whole unit, and this is where it had, shall we say, a point where it melted, those little circles there, so to speak. So gently I drilled through till I got to the logo part, and I started using a pick to pry inside to get the silicone to break. After loosening it enough to be able to pass a cord in between, or string, I'm guessing thread would work also. You're going to see, if you look in between the edge here, you're going to see where it's siliconed or glued. So I'm just going to pass this along and cut down through, doing a sawing motion. Now, as you're going to be sawing through, you have to be careful where your little guides are in the back, because once you reach that, you don't want to saw through them. You have one on each side, plus the middle one that was melted, but the middle one we kind of disregard, right? So work as much around that as possible, sawing back and forth with the cord. So I got through all around as much as I could with the cord. I sprayed some brake cleaner on the edge on the cord while it was inside, and it helped to lubricate and cut through the silicone. Then you just gotta slowly pry. You can actually see the silicone in there. At least I think it's silicone. See, here we have some that's still sticking a lot. So using the cord, sorry about that. There, you could actually hear it cut through. And there it is. So now this part is off. It's a type of glue. So here we see those circles I was talking about. This one has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, looks like 8, 9 of them, because there's one up here hidden. Just pay attention for those, because that's where the two parts are melted together. And again, do not use a drill bit, because you do not want to have a point, because if you have a point, you'll probably punch through the front, which is not what you want to do. So using this, I'm going to grind away and then try to separate. They're nice and easy, small shots. I don't know if it sees it, but you can see a little pin. That's where the two parts are melted. You just want to literally just pass that. I'm just going to get a pick and work around it so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we have all those, I guess you'd call it melted areas, drilled out. And now you got to slowly work around with a pick, pulling it apart so that the two parts separate. I'm going to put on brake cleaner and let them soak in the holes to help soften the glue or silicone or whatever it is they use to glue the two pieces together. Using the pick, put it in at an angle, working it in slowly, twisting back and forth. And eventually you'll hear the silicone sort of crack that's coming apart. At least it did before. So this one's giving a harder time. I'm going to go back to the other one here. Put it in, twisting back and forth. Work your way around. Do this in all the holes. There, that little cracking you heard, it's the silicone separating. Keep in mind, it was not the plastic itself. That would make a whole different sound. This was a rubbery crack, so to speak. Here we see that it's open enough that even my pick is sticking out a little bit. So now I'm going to try putting a cord through. All I'm going to do is putting the pick pointing away from the top, because I don't want it coming out and marring anything. Just putting it the same direction as the length. I'm just going to pry enough that it opens up, as you can see here. And I'll try putting the cord. Now if I can get the cord in behind it, there. Now I'm going to start the sawing motion. So to saw it through, to put the cord, as you can see, it's sticking out on one end here and the other end here. You got to kind of separate it a little bit, otherwise it's too tight for the cord to pass. So you separate it a bit, bring in the cord, separate a bit, bring in the cord, separate it a bit, bring in the cord. and always with a slight sawing motion. And I just noticed I wasn't careful and I nearly broke this pin. So after going around with the pick, doing all the holes, working my way around with the cord, one end popped enough open to get your fingers in. So from here, slowly, very important that it's done slowly, you start to pry it apart. So I'm going to take out the cord and bring it in this way. Because it's the side that opened up the easiest, so to speak. There, now I'm almost down to the center. To help it along, I'm going to put the pick, like I mentioned before. You can hear it popping open. About 3/4 through. Once again, I'm going to help it with the pick. There, you can hear it snapping apart. There we go. And now, here you have it. So, just going to clean it all up. Remove as much of this crud as possible, the silicone, and then prep this for painting. So before we continue, I'm going to clean off the glue from where the badge was connected or sticking to the bezel. So I'm going to use a plastic spatula and brake cleaner and of course some cloths and just wipe that down and try to get it off. There we have it. All the glue is off. These are marks in the paint, the plastic, don't know why. And yeah, so that's it. So we're now at the point of painting. Again, using brake cleaner, I wipe down the badge, making sure that even to catch the edges. And I'll be using a color match paint of the vehicle bought at a local hardware store, automotive car care center. It's not quite a match, but close enough. It's black. I'm still undecided if I'm going to put a coat of clear on it to give it that extra luster, supposedly. So when painting, what I do is I have a box which, after it's painted the first coat, I'm going to stick in the box and do the second coat. If I had a bigger box, I could probably do a better job. The reason I'm not putting it in the box right away is you want to get the sides, all the edges properly, and the only way to do that is to have it where you can put the spray around it. And I can already see there are places I missed with the brake cleaner. You spot them here, here, here. So I'm gonna let it dry and then put on a light sanding and then another coat. In the end, it will end up looking like this one here. As you can see, it's not bad. It's black. It looks clean. I'm just, like I said, undecisive if I'm going to put a clear on it. It kind of looks a little bit flat, which I don't mind so much. So here I have a very fine sandpaper. I believe it's a 400 grit. I'm just going to lightly sand these areas where the paint didn't quite stick. It's a very light sanding. And just so you understand why we're painting the edges here, it's when we're going to place it in the chrome piece, we don't want to have any surfaces that we missed from spraying straight up and not getting on the sides here. So it's probably going to take a couple of coats to get the imperfections out, but that's okay. And on an aside, note, on the front piece there was a little nick in the emblem. All I did was sprayed some of this into a cap, and I used a toothpick to fill it out, and then gave a little sanding and a couple of more coats, and it's not even noticeable unless you come really close to it. So once again, I'm going to give it a wipe. I'm going to spray brake cleaner on a clean Scott towel and just wipe down everywhere. Hopefully this time we won't find any imperfections in the paint. put it back on my little block of wood here, just so I can get all around it. Nice even strokes. This time it seems to have taken. Well, now I'm going to place it in my box so it's protected from the wind and stuff. So here we have it in the box. I'm going to give it another coat. If you need to move it, if you bring your fingers directly underneath in the middle of the logo, or on the sides, but in the middle of it, there you should be able to touch it without screwing up your paint. So a couple more coats. And there you have it. Going by the shine on the paint, I'm thinking I might put a layer of clear. I mean, the paint is wet, and that's why it's got that nice shine to it. So that's it for the painting part. Like I said, the clear is optional, but it would be kind of the same thing. You just go nice even strokes back and forth. Take your time. I decided to go and put a couple of coats of clear on top, and it made everything pop, or it seems to have. So considering this is all done with spray paint, I think the end result is not bad at all. So now we're going to start the assembly process. Now on both the chrome piece and the non-chrome piece, the one that goes in the front, you're going to want to take a file, and where the holes are, just get rid of the burrs so that when you're going to put the emblem on, it's going to sit flat. So you have to file from the outside or the opposite side that you did your drilling, and it's just to get rid of all these little like bumps, so to speak. So when you're going to put your logo, it's going to sit flat. See, like here I could feel it where my thumb is. I could feel little bits of plastic upwards. So here we have the logo, or the badge. I pre-checked to make sure that I'm on the right side. Remember not to break your little tangs here. And as you can see, it came out, I find, damn decent. Anyway, now we got to put the two together. So using black silicone, my plan is to spread all along the center portions, and I'm going to try and put a little bit around each loop, each hole that was drilled out, just so that it helps avoid a buildup behind the two pieces of dirt and stuff. Now, just in preparation, I should have mentioned this earlier, we would need something to clamp it down to make sure we have a good tight fit. So I cut myself 2 pieces of cardboard, just fold them over I have some wax paper, which I'm going to put over the logo part to just avoid any maybe impressions it would make on it. So first, nicely center it. And then just clamp it down. Being careful, like I said, not to get your little tang broke. So here, squeeze it down. If you get any silicone on your part, I suggest you try to wipe it off quick because it has a tendency to be a pain to get off later. So I'm off where I want to be. Give a good squeeze. Actually, I forgot to put the wax paper. See, this is what I was talking about. See what happened? Kind of marked it in. Luckily, it's coming off. So I'm going to get the wax paper. Once more. It's one. So learn from my mistakes, people. Also, what doesn't help is I don't have a proper workbench. There we go. So, now hopefully that first press didn't mar anything. And silicone, you know, like I said, is a pain in the butt. It's all over my fingers, but it's not on the part, at least that I could tell. Now that's got to sit and dry. Would be the same thing for the second one. Except this time I'm going to put the wax paper right away before I forget. I was going to go with the molding tape to install the logo assembly or the badge assembly to the back to the back bezel, but I decided I'm going to go with silicone, because if in the future I want to pull it off, say going for a paint job or something, I believe the silicone will be less of a headache but still strong enough. So making sure, like we always do, around the holes, and I'm going to put a little bit around this hole to make sure I get it, and around these where the pins go, and then just drop it in. So here we have the marking where you know it's up, and it would sit inside like this. So without further ado, the reason I'm putting them around the holes, I'm thinking to myself, in case water seepage where from the back here, when it's up on the trunk or the hatch, that it avoids running where it shouldn't. Now once again, you don't need gobs of it, just, you know, spread it around. I'm going around the holes that we drilled to get to the silicone or glue that was there. You got to find your center, which is the hardest part, because you don't want to smear it all over the place. Or try not to. There we go. Nice and easy. Push it down. Now I'm going to check just to see. See here I got some seepage. Preferably you want to wipe that out right away. And it looks like that's the only spot. There we go. So I just put some pressure on it, and I'm just going to put some weight on it just to make sure it stays down. I'm not using clamps because, as we learned earlier, it's going to leave marks in the paint and stuff. So I'm just going to put like some wax paper over, and I don't know, just a 2x4 or something, just to give it some weight so it stays pressed. And that's all for now. So here we have the back bezel installed. Naturally, everything was checked. All is working fine. This is what it looks like. Keep in mind the truck is dirty, but you can see, very nice. And here we have the front. So there you have it. What I think is the better way to do it than painting over the parts. Take your time with everything. Enjoy.